stage. There we go. All right, there we go, folks. Good evening and welcome, Pittsburgh Sports Tonight. Got a couple of you hopping on board here already. We'll take some conversation from each and every one of you in the comments section this evening, live on X, Facebook, and YouTube. John Phillips here. Got my Donkey Kong shirt. What a game yesterday. By the way, first of all, let's start by saying apologies for no pregame or postgame show yesterday. We got to the restaurant, Bill Akins and myself, and there's a space that we use on a regular basis over at North Park Lounge, Richland. Well, somebody forgot about us, and they put a bunch of tables up, and there were people having a meal. And I spoke to the general manager there, and I think it would have probably caused more problems than anything, given how busy they were to try to find a space for us. So we ended up not doing a show yesterday. A little disappointing, nonetheless. We move on, and a great game, obviously, yesterday. I mean, if you think 3 weeks ago where this team was, they were 6-6 and reeling, absolutely reeling. Buffalo had come in here and after a first half where, they had a lead, they came out of the gates in the second half of that game, and that turnover for a touchdown really just gave Buffalo all the momentum it needed, and then they just ran the ball down our throats all evening long in that embarrassing loss at home at Acrisure, where fans were booing Renegade and chants of Fire Tomlin were echoing through the building. And, look, the pressure cooker is a real thing in professional sports in any walk of life. If you're in business or you've got a professional job somewhere. I mean, I've got a day job, a lot of pressure on during the day times. People have a lot of pressure in their jobs. And I don't know if it ever reached that level where there was just such angst and a sense of just unhappiness in Steeler Nation with Mike Tomlin, and to watch this team over the last 3 weeks rally. I mean, truly, they have rallied around Mike as they have in the past, as time and again, as players have said. Players want to play for Mike Tomlin. Well, I guess we see why. They were not motivated for a period of time. Right, they came out of the bye week at 2-1. They got that win there to get them to 3-1. So they start the season with. Or actually, I take that back. They got to 4-1. They were 3-1 coming out of the bye week. They played Cleveland at home. It was ugly, but they won. And then that Thursday night they went to Cincinnati and they got up early. But then towards the end of that first half, it just kind of changed, and they ended up losing to Green Bay the following week. They snuck that win in against the Colts, but then it was a loss to the Chargers back home. And then the Bears and Bills loss were back to back. And the frustration, you could sense it, right? The 8-year buildup of no playoff wins. Mike's never had a losing season and all that fun stuff. It really came to a head that after that game at home against Buffalo. And, the Steelers have just completely and utterly rallied at Baltimore with a convincing win. Then they come home and they stomp Miami on a Monday night. And then they go to Detroit, who was desperate for a win. Desperate for a win. They were sitting in the 8th spot outside. And even a victory didn't allow them to move into a 7th spot because the Packers were sitting in that position a game and a half ahead of them. And they go into Detroit and they hold themselves they played very well the first 30 minutes. They got that incredible catch from Kenny Gainwell to score that touchdown just before halftime. I mean, you're talking about just one of the most incredibly lucky, acrobatic, skilled, focused catches I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't think I've seen a catch quite like that. Gainwell on the ground with his hand on the ground, right? The ball just perfectly hits his hand, doesn't boing somewhere, right? It doesn't go bouncing 3 feet away. It just kind of laid on his hand, if you will, and he was able to corral it, get up. He kept his composure and his head about him. Boy, has Kenny Gainwell been. I I talk about Gainwell being the best offseason acquisition. I mean, Aaron Rodgers. We haven't even gotten to him. I got a list of things I want to get to today. This is Pittsburgh Sports Tonight. John Phillips. It's nice to be able to chat again with people. If you have any comments, as we have some people I can see are popping in here. If you're on YouTube or Facebook or on X, you're welcome to leave a comment in our comment sections. We'll get to them. We want to hear where what you have to say. If you want to say something, you're welcome to do so. Yeah, right now this is the best they've looked by far all season long, hands down, no question about it. And I said earlier in the week, they have to win this game. Have to win this game. There was no room for them to lose this game because you're building momentum now that you've won two, to go on the road and take this game the way they did, especially in the second half. Where they asserted their dominance. I mean, they ran the ball with such efficiency defensively. No TJ Watt a second straight week, no problem. Joey Porter Jr. plays extremely well. Alex Highsmith plays extremely well, right? Jalen Ramsey plays extremely well. Derek Harmon, they need him. He has made that run defense so much better with his presence in the middle of that interior line. Just really just a rally by this team in 3 weeks. And look, hey, Mike Tomlin, 19 years now, never had a losing season. Maybe the most incredible coaching statistic in sports. Right now, I can't think of anything other. And yeah, I've said fire the guy. I've said trade him and get some things. Get him out of here. Get somebody new in here, right? And this is all well and good. I mean, nobody's denied that Mike Tomlin can coach. He can certainly coach. He motivates guys. He probably gets more out of bad rosters than a lot of coaches do. And yeah, ultimately winning in January is really the bottom line. It really is. And we'll be able to talk more about that after this weekend. I think Saturday, I think the season's over for Baltimore. I think they're going to go up to Green Bay and the Packers are going to just beat them up. The best case scenario for the Steelers is for that to happen. That is the best case scenario. I don't know if they can catch Jacksonville right now. I haven't had a chance to look ahead at Jacksonville's schedule. I'm actually pulling it up right now here. The Jaguars, big win on the road. They've got to go to Indianapolis. That Colts team is reeling. They're on the outside looking in now. They're on the outside looking in when it comes to the playoffs. They have the 8th spot. Tennessee Texans are in the 7th spot, and the Texans have a lead. They have a lead of a game and a half right now. And, of course, Baltimore's playing a big Monday night game against San Francisco tonight. Desperate to win, right? We'll see how that one plays out. I do believe that game is in Indianapolis. Nope, it's in oh, yeah, it is in Indianapolis. So the Colts are home tonight. Can't post comments for some destinations. All right, if you're leaving comments, we'll find them in the comments section. I'll go check them out here in a few minutes. This is Pittsburgh Sports Tonight. I'm doing this on my own. Learning to do things on my own at 55 in this little crazy internet web world is something else. When I started broadcasting a million years ago, campus radio at Edinburgh, in high school even before that at Woodland Hills and Swissvale. We used to record games and run them up to the high school up at Churchill and get them on TCI, Time Warner Cable. And now, I'm talking to 13 people somewhere on the web. Well, thanks for joining us on Pittsburgh Sports Tonight. We're going to continue to keep doing this show through the remainder of the holidays. We'll have a show tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock. We will do shows probably next week as well as we work our way into 2026. And of course, the Steelers now in this really good position where if, the Ravens lose Saturday night, the next 2 games aren't meaningful in the sense that they can rest some people. Right? They want to be able to rest people. I think that that's very, very important. I would like to see this team rest people for the run here into the postseason. So we'll see how things play out. I want to start by talking a little bit about the big play, obviously at the very end, as we're chatting here this evening. The big play at the very end was the officials in this league, and you wonder why so many people are just livid about officiating in this league. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and yet these officials are part-time. And yesterday on display in that football game, what I couldn't believe was that Jared Goff completes a pass to Amon-Ra St. Brown. He catches the ball at the 1-yard line. He is met by a defender and then quickly a second. And at that point in time, he was stopped. His forward progress had completely stopped. In fact, he was being driven backwards. And for whatever reason, the officials didn't blow the whistle. St. Brown is allowed to lateral the football. Goff gets it, and nobody's paying attention. And he finishes the playoff in the end zone, and it was declared a touchdown. Now, thankfully, that offensive pass interference call was made, and that nullified the touchdown and effectively ended the game. But there was a tremendous amount of confusion there because officials are unwilling, I guess, in certain spots. And they're willing in certain spots to throw a flag where maybe they wouldn't normally. And then in some spots, we'll figure it out afterwards. Negligence on the part of the officials yesterday. Again, it's easy to sit here and nitpick everything afterwards, but that's what you do in this particular case. You're looking at things and it's a head scratcher. You're thinking to yourself, what is going on exactly? Why is this? Why are these officials not blowing a whistle when they should be? It was quite bizarre. That the ending of that game shouldn't have gone down that way, to say the very least. Although I will say that, and that's the other crazy part. If they weren't willing to blow the whistles, what happens if Ramsey or Joey Porter Jr., the two players that were on that field at the end of that play, what if they throw him down to the ground? What's to say an official isn't going to throw a flag and call personal foul and extend the game an extra play? That's how crazy this league is in its unpredictability based on the officiating. When you're talking about all this gambling money now more than ever before, all the states, I think it's 39 states now or 41 states that have legalized gambling, sports betting of some kind, prediction markets, all of those sorts of things. For this entity that's worth billions and billions and billions of dollars not to employ officials full time is a crime. It's shameful. I don't know why the NFLPA isn't involved in all of this. I don't know why the networks aren't involved in all of this. The partners should be demanding better of their partners, right? Their partner company, their vendor, right? TV pays a lot of money to the networks to broadcast these games. And yeah, there's a lot of eyeballs on them. But when you constantly have, and especially in social media settings, so many people, well, look at this play. The game a few weeks ago, the Raiders game is a perfect example, right? They were down by 10 with a couple seconds left. They kick a long field goal. It covers the spread for the home team and it puts the total over. It does both of those. And then the game is over. You understand in a certain sense why the coaches may have done that, because they thought, well, if we can get the field goal and there's time left, we've got a chance for an onside, maybe a screwy play, we get possession of the ball, we can lateral it, maybe we can get a touchdown. But then you've got that other element that's out there that's saying, hey, this looks fixed. This looks fixed. And I've noticed on my timeline on X that I see a few more, content people. The league is scripted. The league is fake. Here's this player saying it. Here's this player saying it. And so, it would behoove anybody. I think I've got the comment section thing figured out. So if you want to leave a comment, you can. If you do have comments, they should start hopefully populating here so that I can see them. The league needs to fix the officiating thing. I don't know why the networks aren't coming in. I don't know why this is still a thing where, an attorney can double as, a line judge in a Vikings Lions game, you know, while he's got some guy that's in jail fighting some charge. He's got to be worried about, a defensive back, a pushing off on a wide receiver downfield, whether or not he should throw a flag with under 2 minutes to go in a 3-point game. It's a $1 billion league with part-time people as their officials. It's insane. So anyhow, big win yesterday. Obviously, the last play at the end of the game, that whole sequence was quite interesting. But to say the very least, the Steelers with their best 3-game stretch of the season, without a doubt. And it'll be nice to see Sunday if they've already clinched the division. Right? That's the main component to all of this. Meaningless games where they can rest a little bit, still get some play in, but rest for the most part. And that's what I'm looking forward to. Let's talk Aaron Rodgers. Let's talk Aaron Rodgers for a few minutes. This is Pittsburgh Sports Tonight. I'm John Phillips, live in my basement. Thanks for coming on board. If you're joining us on Facebook or if you're joining us on YouTube or X, we appreciate you coming on in here and hanging out with us this evening. We are here Mondays and Tuesdays, 7 to 8 p.m. And you can check out all the shows at It's a Wrap Sports. We work with It's a Wrap Sports out of Philadelphia. Great people. We enjoy their what they do for us. They get us on the air. We're happy to be on with them. It's been a good relationship so far, and they're taking more of our programming, which is obviously very important because we want to continue to keep producing content. That's important to me personally. And we want to make sure that gets muted. I want to see if I can see any comments in here. All right. Again, Pittsburgh Sports Tonight live here from 7 to 8 p.m. Mondays and Tuesdays on our YouTube channel, on our X page, and, of course, on Facebook as well. You can visit us on all the social media platforms. If you're ever wondering where you can find us, folks, it's very easy. All you got to do is follow us on social media at Steel City Sunday on all the socials, YouTube, X, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Okay, let's go back and talk about Aaron Rodgers. Hey, I would sign up for another year. I would 100% sign up for another season of this. He has come in here and all the noise. He's a bad teammate. He's over the hill. He doesn't have anything to offer. Look how poorly, the Jets were off, with him. He's a distraction. He's a anti-vaxxer, right? Pick whatever quill you want and fire away, right? That's what people were doing when it came to Aaron Rodgers. And I had some skepticism just at the age of 41, turning 42 this year, what he had in the tank, if this offensive line could protect him. And he's proven that he's still very capable. I didn't want to see him throw the ball 41 times yesterday. He was 27 of 41 for 266 and a tutty. He only took 2 sacks. He looked really good again. The offense looked good, especially in that fourth quarter. They looked really, really good. And I give Aaron Rodgers a lot of credit where credit is due. He was impressive, and if I look at some of the breakdowns from some of the team stats, of course, they ran the ball for 230 yards yesterday. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Kenny Gainwell and Jalen Warren here in a moment, but just looking at some of the stats yesterday, third down efficiency, 8 of 16. 8 of 16 were the Steelers. That's a critical one. That is a critical one, right? We talked about the 3-and-out issues that they had. We talked a little bit about some of the problems that they have had offensively. This is, prior to this 3-game winning streak, right? The 3-and-outs, right? The third down conversions were terrible. All of a sudden, this looks like a completely different team. And they are doing extremely well under Aaron Rodgers, and I would sign up for another year. Live viewer comments show up on StreamYard. This is an example. Click on a comment to show it on the screen. Well, I don't have any comments, but thank you. I'll hide that. If you have any comments, please drop them in the comments section so that we can address those. We are again Pittsburgh Sports Tonight live here from 7 to 8 p.m. this evening. All right, so Aaron Rodgers, if this however this season ends, and Aaron's feeling like he's got one more in him, sign me back up, because this is the best the offense has looked since Ben retired, and we all remember how bad Ben was at the end. He just physically was not capable of it. The mere fact that he willed them to a playoff appearance in his last season with that incredible effort against Baltimore, maybe one of the guttiest performances I've ever seen out of a football player. Ben just had nothing in the tank. Somehow he managed to get that team rallied in the fourth quarter and then in overtime. But the offense has looked terrible over the last 3 years. Obviously, the Kenny Pickett failures, Mitch Trubisky last year with with bringing in the moon ball, right, from Denver via Seattle, and then you bring in the kid from Chicago who's now in New York. You have all kinds of problems with your quarterback spot the last 3 years. That seemingly has gone away, right? The whole Russell Wilson thing last year, and Justin Fields was a disaster. It started out fine, but then they pulled the kid who had gone 4-2 for the veteran for who knows why. Mike Tomlin. Didn't work out so good. Now you've got this guy who's trying to find some magic one more time. We'll see. We'll see what happens. A lot of practice ahead for the week. We got the DK Metcalf suspension. We'll talk about that in a moment, but I want to get to Jaylen Warren and Kenny Gainwell. Can you believe this 1-2 combo? How about this platter from these guys? Boy, they have done pretty good for themselves, have they not? Kenny Gainwell has come in here and has just been a dynamite pickup. Just absolutely dynamite. Again, leading the team in receiving yards yesterday with 78, and that incredible catch, just an absolute incredible catch that he made late in that second quarter that ended up being a 45-yard touchdown reception. He has been just dynamite. And Jaylen Warren went off yesterday. This offensive line, watching a lot of the breakdowns today and, just instant replay and hearing the analysis, boy, the offensive line just solid. Just the run blocking was just devastating. I mean, they inflicted a lot of pain on Detroit's defense running the football yesterday. Was really fun to watch, to be quite honest with you, and especially in that second half. The Steelers really did a fantastic job. Jaylen Warren running for 143. I mentioned Gainwell. I think he had 45 yards on the ground or 40 yards on the ground. Again, as a team, the Steelers ran for 230 yards, and Warren with those pair of 45-yard touchdown runs, just breaking the Lions back on those series. They just that's a running attack that can balance out an aging quarterback who you don't have to rely on all the time. When you need him, he's there. But for the most part, you're getting that consistent running game that you need. You need that running game. You need these guys to be, on point, knocking it out, and that's exactly what they did. They knocked it out yesterday. Okay, DK suspension, DK Metcalf. The league came down today. Everybody's seen the video. They had it shortly after it happened live on the broadcast yesterday. Apparently, some fan got into it with DK Metcalf. Metcalf reached up to him and kind of gave him a little nudge with his right hand after he pulled him down. Apparently, this fan has done this before to DK Metcalf. We'll see what happens. It's a 2-game suspension. Obviously, You want to see the Ravens lose because you don't want to lose a guy like that for that potentially that last game, and if they win, if the Ravens win on Saturday night in Green Bay, then the Steelers are going to have to go out to Cleveland. They're going to have to win to make that last game meaningless. They absolutely going to need that, and they need DK Metcalf. Not a smart play by Metcalf. Not a smart play. Who knows what was said? Who knows what was said? People are claiming that racial epithets were uttered. There was a video that just came out from a guy who was sitting right next to the dude who was involved in all of this. Couldn't hear anything to that effect. That doesn't mean that something was said or wasn't said, but you want to be obviously cautious in these situations. We'll see how this all plays out. But DK Metcalf suspended for 2 games. Not a good look for him. He's going to lose about $500,000. That stings. Joey Porter Jr. I want to talk about Joey Porter Jr. Has he just looked really good in the last 3 weeks? Things are starting to come together for that kid. Things are starting to come together for him. It's been really impressive. He locked up with a dynamic player all day yesterday and was just very good. He was very good. And they need that. This all is coming together at the right time for this team. And again, we have to wait for Saturday to play out before we can get to Sunday and talking about that and what may or may not happen. But Joey Porter Jr., we need more of that from him. No TJ Watt, no problem. It used to be when TJ Watt didn't play, this team lost a lot. But they have now gone 2 straight wins without him. So that's a good thing. And I'm pretty pleased to say that, look, the whole dry needling thing, don't know anything about it. It's obviously a common practice or a somewhat common practice by these guys in professional sports. We'll see when we get him back. And we could use him, but right now they've played extremely well without him. And finally, Mike Tomlin. I mean, what more can be said? We kind of touched upon this at the very top of the broadcast. What more can be said about Mike Tomlin? The guy just finds ways to win more games than he loses by the end of a regular season. And sure enough, with 2 games left, I think the Vegas total on wins was over under 8.5 this year. Well, Mike Tomlin has reached the pinnacle again. Never had a losing season. Continues in his 19th year. Nobody denies that he is going to be a Hall of Fame coach when he hangs it up, right? Give him 5 years. They'll be in the first ballot Hall of Famer. You can't. He's top 10 all time in wins, right? He's obviously got the Super Bowl under his belt. So they can never take that from him, and he went to 2. But Mike Tomlin gets another winning season under his belt. It's truly incredible. It's right now it is the most prolific stat for any coach in all the major sports leagues. It can't be touched. Cannot be touched. Now again, this is all good. Everything feels good, right? You've ridden this 3-game winning streak, and you are, you're doing extremely well. And then all of a sudden, the playoffs come, and you have to win in January. You have to win in January. I've said this before, right? What was the big knock on Bill Cowher? Couldn't win an AFC title game at home, right? Couldn't do it. He won 1. I happened to be there. That was against the Indianapolis Colts, and that went down to the final play, right? Could not win conference championship games at home. Lost to San Diego, lost to Denver, lost to the Patriots twice. Just got obliterated in most cases. They were, the Chargers game was a close game. The game against the Denver was They controlled that game for the most part. Cordell Stewart with the 3 turnovers did not help. That's for sure. But he continues to win. Continues to win. And again, it's great. And this all feels good. But once we get into mid-January and we get to the wild card round, he's going to have to find a way to secure a victory at Acrisure and end this, what would be a 9-year run of no playoff wins. None of this will mean anything. None of this will mean anything if they lose in the first round of the playoffs at home. It's that simple. And you can talk about all the things that ail Tomlin again, and you would not be wrong. And I'm not talking about, a couple people said, "Oh, he'll get the extension this year," and maybe, probably in March, maybe they do it soon. If he wins a playoff game or two and he gets to a AFC Championship game and a close loss, they probably extend him right away. He'll probably get the extension in March, maybe sooner. He wins a playoff game, wins a couple playoff games. Yeah, he's definitely coming back. We said that after the Baltimore game. We even said it after the loss to the Bills. You speculate all you want about packaging him up and trying to trade him and say we need a change here if they had finished poorly. Well, they didn't. They rallied, and they rallied around Mike Tomlin. These players rallied around Mike Tomlin. That's why I say whatever ends up happening, if this finishes however it ends up finishing, I would take another season of it. It gives you another chance to maybe draft a young quarterback and see what you could potentially get. You've got a bunch of picks. You could probably move up at the draft in your own backyard in April. I don't know if the draft class is as strong as other classes in the past. It's really a crapshoot. We've seen this over the years. That this kind of stuff is very, very hard to gauge. You don't, most guys that get drafted in the first round end up not panning out, not working out. We know this, but we'll see how things play along. Okay, I'm John Phillips. Pleased you could be joining me here on Pittsburgh Sports Tonight. Not getting any comments is strange. I am trying to figure out live viewers. It says can't post comments to some destinations. Huh. It says I can read and post. It says all of these here. Nobody's commenting tonight. Hey, drop a comment down in the section here if you're on Facebook or YouTube or X, if you don't mind. Would love to interact with some of you out there. A couple of us on the Steel City Sunday page, a couple people on YouTube. All right, so I'm learning how this little operating system works here. It's neat to kind of discover the behind the scenes stuff of what we're doing is live programming. Of course, all of this stuff is archived. I wouldn't call it a podcast per se, but it is just nice to talk a little bit about the world of sports. All right, I teased earlier on X the whole Riverhounds head coaching thing. Rob Vincent, if you are unfamiliar with the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, we might jump back into some Steelers talk, but I want to talk about this story because I've worked on this story for over 2 months. And for those of you that don't know, I dabble as a writer for the Pittsburgh Tribune Review. They were kind enough to pick me up as a contributing writer. I am not a full-time writer for them, but they gave me the Riverhounds beat this year, which I didn't expect anything. First of all, I was just looking for some creative outlet because I hadn't been working in sports media for a long time, and I thought maybe I'd get a shot at writing a few articles here or there. And as it turns out, the sports editor Bill Hartlip was like, "Yeah, I used to work for the Riverhounds. Why don't you cover them for us?" So I ended up with a professional sports beat this year, the second level of professional soccer in America, but nonetheless, my former employer many, many years ago, the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, and I had a great time. it was fun to cover games. It was fun to write features on players and things of that nature. And then in early October on a Friday evening at around 6 o'clock, the team drops a bombshell on its X page saying that Bob Lilly, the winningest head coach in Riverhounds history, had been put on administrative leave. And that Rob Vincent, an assistant, somebody who's been with the organization since 2018, was put in charge of the team. He was the acting head coach. And that's when, the gears started shifting into a different level, if you will, because that's when the reporter in you takes over, right? You're always the who, what, when, where, and why. But in this particular case, the winningest head coach in the team's history has been put on administrative leave and nobody said anything about it. So over the course of the next few weeks, myself and a few of the other writers that cover the team on a regular basis, put our thinking caps on, and we would dig around and we would trade information. And we kind of came to a conclusion that Bob Lilly had done something that had upset some players enough where the players themselves went to the league. So Bob is Bob has his own way of doing things. Bob would never question anybody who's got more wins as a native U.S. citizen than anybody that's ever coached in soccer here in North America, or at least in the United States. Bob is the most winningest coach, American-born soccer coach of all time. Right? He's got over 130. He had 130 wins with the Riverhounds. Winningest coach in club history. When Bob showed up, this team had very little to talk about in terms of postseason appearances. He took them to the postseason every year. He was the coach. But Bob had a side to him that was a little rough, a little old school, if you will. And so, as reporters, we're bound by a variety of things, talking to people, making sure that we have multiple sources. Nowadays, nobody wants to go on the record. Very difficult to get people to speak on the record. The story kind of just tapered off for a while. Vincent took over. They ended up winning a couple games. They scored 3 goals in the first game. The Indy 11 game, they had a big outburst, and they won a couple games, and they managed to get into the playoffs, and they got into the 4th seed. And as they started to make their way through the playoffs and winning games, they won in penalties in the quarterfinals against Hartford Athletic. In the semifinals of the Eastern Conference, they got a goal that propelled them to victory, 1-0 against Detroit City from Robbie Mertz. And then in the conference finals against Rhode Island, again, penalties, but they win. And that's when the story really started to take shape. At least for me, it did. And what I started to gather here was that some players were unhappy with how Bob was speaking to them. And they went to the USLPA, who in turn contacted the league, who in turn contacted the Riverhounds, and then an investigation took place, and Bob was put on administrative leave. We do not know, none of us that write and cover the team, we don't know exactly what the boiling point was. But there had been signs that, Bob was not afraid to express his displeasure to his team. Okay. I was not there in March, but there was an incident at Allegheny Health Network that one of the reporters that covers the team on a regular basis was at, where Bob basically dressed them down for a half an hour after a practice. And then, of course, there was the Charleston Battery game at home in August. They got up 1-0 early. They then allowed a late first half goal, and then Charleston took the lead in the second half, and they ended up losing 2-1 at home. And Bob dressed that team down on the field after the game in front of everybody. Once they won the conference championship game and they were going to Tulsa. I started really making calls to the league and connecting with a few people. I talked to one in particular person at the league. Players started to loosen up a little bit. I was able to track down a former Riverhounds player who laid out in detail that hey, this guy can say some things that are hard to process. Some players process it well, some others don't. Now, there were players on the Riverhounds that didn't want to go on the record, that defended Bob and said, whatever they're saying, whatever they are saying, whoever is accusing Bob of this, whatever they're saying is being blown out of proportion. And I had several players say that to me. But here is the problem and what happened, I believe, with Bob Lilly and why he's no longer head coach. As this team continued to win and eventually gets to Tulsa, Tuffy Schallenberger, who's the owner of the Riverhounds, and this is speculation on my part, but also conversations with a few people, it became harder and harder for Tuffy to work Bob back into what would be a job again as this head coach. Prior to the playoff run, right just before the playoff run, I was told he's probably going to come back. It looks like he's going to come back because they didn't expect this team to win. Nobody expected this team to go on the run that they did. And I think that reason, more than anything else, as I was told, right, because I was in Tulsa, I went and covered that championship game, and I talked to players after the game. I talked to other staff after the game at the hotel. I was there at the restaurant when they were whooping it up, and subsequent conversations afterwards. When Tuffy Schallenberger came back from Tulsa that following week, he had made the decision to let Bob go. And Bob cleaned out his offices at Allegheny Health Network facility in Montour and over at Highmark Stadium. He cleaned his offices out prior to Thanksgiving. It's confirmed to me by two people. What happened over the next 3 to 4 weeks was the legal wranglings behind the scenes because Bob's under contract for 2026. And so there was the legal back and forth between, is this cause, is this not cause? That apparently all kind of got cleaned up about 2 weeks ago. And then the Riverhounds did what they did. They made Rob Vincent their head coach. And, I asked him point blank in Tulsa at the hotel afterwards, because we were under the impression that he did not have an A license, which is something you need to be a head coach in the USL and MLS. You've got to have an A license. We were under the impression he did not. I asked him, I said, do you have an A license? He goes, absolutely. It stunned me. I was like, I was told you didn't. He goes, I have an A license and I am available. And sure enough, a month later, he is the head coach of the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. That's the story, folks. I talked to 7 different people. And, it is what it is. I think Bob will find another head coaching job. I think an organization will employ him. I reached out to him 3 different times. I would have loved to have spoken to him, but Bob's not a big fan of the media. Probably not a big fan of mine, even though I just covered the team for 1 year. Somebody will snap him up. He'll get a job. He'll get a job without a doubt, and he should. He's legitimately a very, very good coach. But some would argue in this modern day that coaches of that mindset were, being hard on players does not equate to what today's modern athlete is going to tolerate or take, allegedly. I wish Bob well. I believe he will find a job somewhere. I believe some team will hire him. If there's a coaching vacancy somewhere, they would be wise to pick up Bob Lilly. If you don't make the playoffs, if you struggle with putting a winning product on the field, it may not be pretty. They may not score a lot of goals, but they'll win. Bob Lilly can win soccer games. He's proven it. So if you're wondering what happened with Bob Lilly, that's it. That's it. I talked to at least 3 players that are active on USL rosters. Like I said, organizational people, league people. 30 years in this business, I've broken big stories in my lifetime. Sorry to see Bob go. Sorry to see Bob go. Happy for Rob Vincent. Happy for Rob Vincent. Now, he's got a tall task ahead of him. No Eric Dick, no Sean Suber. There's your defense right there. There's your your goalkeeper, your giant goalkeeper, and your best defender gone. And Augie Williams, who led the team in goals with 9, he's gone. So you got a lot of already of what was the nucleus of a championship team gone. But I think the Riverhounds are in it to win it long term. Clearly, the new stadium that they're going to build is, and then moving up to Division 1, not necessarily competing with MLS. For those that are unfamiliar with the USL, used to be kind of like a feeder league to MLS. I mean, look at what MLS has done in terms of taking Cincinnati away, Orlando City, Miami, Toronto. I'm probably missing a few other teams that are competing in MLS that started in USL and built great organizations and managed to move their way up. Well, USL is going to Division 1 in a couple years, and the Riverhounds are going to be competing at the top level of soccer in North America finally with a new stadium, which is pretty awesome. And it's great for the game around here. And I'm sorry Bob's not going to be here for that because he helped build that, right? Without Bob Lilly, this doesn't happen here in Pittsburgh. This organization rarely won. Bob Lilly shows up, they start winning. They go to the playoffs every year. Unfortunately, he was not around for that magical run, and it is within that magical run that the team made that I think cost him his job. Because if they don't win that game against Hartford, they lose in penalties, season's over, Bob's probably back. Bob is probably back. But the team goes on this run, and it almost forced the hand, it seems like, of ownership, who very much was a big fan of Bob Lilly's. I don't know if there was a bigger fan of Bob's than Tuffy Schallenberger. I don't think so. Just my 2 cents on it all. But that's what happened. That's why Bob is no longer with the Riverhounds. So there you have it. I stand by it all. I don't really care. And this is not meant to be malicious to Bob. I mean, it's just what it is, right? But he'll get another coaching job. I'm certain he may not get a coaching job this year, right? Maybe not this off season. But within the next year, yeah, I think Bob's going to be back in USL or somewhere. He'll have a job somewhere, helping some organization turn it around like he did here in Pittsburgh. And that was Bob Lilly. That was Bob Lilly. And he certainly earned a piece of this championship. The roster put together by him. The roster was put together by him. And they tightened up when it mattered the most, right? Come playoff time, they sealed it down. What a run. It was really a pleasure to cover it. But that's the Bob Lilly story. He is no longer here because I believe that he just rubbed a few players the wrong way with whatever he was saying, and eventually it caught up to him. And the league investigated, and I think because they won the championship, Tuffy Schallenberger decided he was going to move on. I think, and whether that's the right decision or not, I don't know. But that's the deal. That's what I was able to dig out and figure out. And I don't, I'm not mentioning the newspaper. They certainly have had the story, but when you can't quote sources, there's a liability potentially there for them. But I'm okay with talking about it. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It is what it is. And again, I had one player on this roster tell me, "Why are you people in the media not reporting this? It's in front of everybody." Kind of blew my mind. But there you have it. So if you stuck around for that Riverhounds news, there you go. You can do with that as you wish. I wish Bob the best of luck. Um, Again, reached out to him at least on 3 occasions, called him, texted him. He was not interested in returning calls or speaking to me. I'm certain he will be coaching again somewhere for a professional soccer organization here in the United States. This is Pittsburgh Sports Tonight. I'm John Phillips. Mondays and Tuesdays, 7 to 8 p.m. We're just going to get in here and chat a little bit. We will talk about what's going on in the world of sports. If you don't mind, if you're not following me on any of those social media sites, please do us a favor and do so. Like and subscribe. If you're on YouTube right now, hit the like button, please. It helps the channel. We're so new. We want to grow things. We want to add more content and programming. And I think by the end of the season, if we continue to put shows forth and people are watching, I can get more programming together. I really want to put more programming together that's Pittsburgh based, Pittsburgh centric. 2026 hopefully provides us with more opportunity for new pregame shows, new content that's live. Again, we're not doing podcasts here. We're doing live content that is archived. You could potentially podcast it, I suppose, but we want to be a live outlet for sports programming on all of our social media sites. Right now, we're broadcasting live on YouTube, X, and Facebook, TikTok, and maybe Instagram at some point in time. But that's our social media following right there. Please, if you can, go check us out on all the social media sites. And as I mentioned, we've got Steel City Sunday is a part of the It's a Wrap Sports Network. I would be remiss if I didn't let you know that It's a Wrap Sports is a network of shows with a Philadelphia theme, but they have added the Pittsburgh programming, and now we're kind of like an all inclusive Pennsylvania network, if you will, because they have Penn State shows. They've got all kinds of shows for the teams in Philadelphia, everything for hockey, baseball, football, soccer even. They've got gambling shows. That's our schedule for the week here. You can see the shows on the It's a Wrap Sports Network are on there. Please check out some of the programming. And of course, later this week I don't know if we'll have a show Wednesday. The Pittsburgh Sports Desk may not. I'll have to talk to Bill. That's Bill Aiken's show. Bill's been producing my Steel City Sunday pregame and postgame this year. Bill's been doing podcasting for 5 years. Ex-Army guy, good dude. I've enjoyed working with him. Covers the Riverhounds for I think it's Steampunk out east. But Pittsburgh Sports Desk is one of the shows we do on this channel. Gridiron Weekly as well. It's a weekly football show that's on Thursdays at 8 o'clock that Bill hosts as well. Those are some of our shows. And just for the It's a Wrap Sports Network people, that's the guy, my man Matty B. He actually runs the network. He's the man in charge. He does shows at 9 o'clock. He's got that Philadelphia attitude. There's a whole bunch of other shows. There's a Props, Locks, and Parlay show with Mike Lauro. Mike also does a Happy Valley podcast as well, does a live show regarding Penn State athletics. These are just some of the shows on the network that It's a Wrap Sports provides. I thought it would be important to just kind of mention them as well. As Pittsburgh Sports Tonight, we'll wrap up here in a few minutes. I wanted to just say thanks everybody for hanging out this evening. It's been so long since I've done anything like this. Certainly my talk radio career is in the rearview mirror, but if I can, in the next 5 years, build this out where, people are hanging out and we can just chat about sports, it'll be a good thing. If you were leaving comments and I did not see them, my apologies. I am figuring out things. For some reason, the comments may not be showing up. I'll have to go back into YouTube and X and see if anybody left comments. We'll address them at some point in time here. All right, we will have a show tomorrow. My intent is to have shows next week. I do have to drive to Dayton, Ohio tomorrow, so we may not be on the air. We'll see. Got to see what time I can get out of here tomorrow, and then get back here on Wednesday morning. I'm still working during the day. It never stops in the construction world, and but that's okay. It keeps me busy and keeps me out of trouble. Want to thank everybody for hanging out with us this evening. Again, Steelers. What more can be said about this team? I mean, they're on a roll right now. They need to be on a roll. They could not go into Detroit and lose. I was adamant about that. I felt like the Ravens were vulnerable to New England, and sure enough, they were last night, and they lost. And now, with a Saturday game at Green Bay and the Packers after coming off of the loss, and they're fighting to stay in the playoff chase, it'll be desperation time. And if there's no, we'll see what happens with Lamar Jackson, whether he'll play or not. Who knows? Obviously it benefits the Steelers if he doesn't play, and if the Packers can just, handle Baltimore, then Sunday's game against the Brownies means nothing. It means nothing. It means you get a chance to rest. You get the chance to work on some things. You don't have to rest all your starters, but you don't have to play them for 4 quarters. You might just get some reps in, right? And just try to run an offense, try to put a drive or two together, try and score. We'll see how things play out. Lots to play out over the course of the week. All right, I think that's about it for me on the show this evening. I want to thank everybody who did hang out with us tonight. We will continue to keep adding content, and as I mentioned, we'll continue to keep doing the Monday and Tuesday show thing. Tomorrow, I'm crossing my fingers. I might be in a hotel room in Dayton, Ohio, but if I am, I will be doing this show for at least an hour. Hopefully we'll have a guest. We can bring somebody on to chit chat about this, that, and the other. Thanks to Matty B and all of his efforts to make sure that we get on the air every single week. Last week was a challenge, but this week a little bit better. A little bit better. I'm getting better at not knocking myself off the air. Last week I hit the wrong open, and then I shut down the stream. Then I couldn't get back in. It was a complete and total disaster. But tonight, not so bad. Not so bad. All right. Pittsburgh Sports Tonight signing off. I'm John Phillips. Appreciate you hanging out with me on all the social media sites, wherever you might be. Appreciate you checking out the show. We'll continue live programming tomorrow at 7 o'clock. We'll have Pittsburgh Sports Tonight for you. It's been a real pleasure as always, folks. John Phillips saying good night. We'll talk to you tomorrow.